Hey everybody, like you, I am super excited that this past week, Governor Abbott announced his plan to reopen Texas. And I think there's some real wisdom in the way that we're doing it. We're going to be doing it in phases. So phase 1 is the first 2 weeks in May. And during that time, we're going to kind of loosen up some of the restrictions and we're going to kind of see what happens. And if the cases of coronavirus spike up, then we're going to slow down and we're going to back off, and maybe we stay at phase 1 for a while. But if the cases don't spike up dramatically, then we're going to go on to phase 2 in the second half of May. And for the church, there's a lot to think about because we're all very obviously anxious to get back together in person. But our first concern is safety for everybody. And our second thing, honestly, is we just miss each other. And I think we're all ready to meet back in person. There's a lot of other stuff we got to think about too. We got to think about supply chain stuff. We've got to think about compliance, feasibility. I mean, can we really get people through our doors and keep them 6 feet apart? And what about bathrooms? And what about kids ministry? What about liability? So there's a lot to think about, but we're anxious, we're excited, but we're in no real hurry, especially when you consider that if we were to have a church service right away, if we were to have a church service this weekend in person, there would be no hugging and there would be no handshakes and we'd all be wearing masks and we'd be 6 feet apart and no elderly people, no at-risk people, no kids ministry, no singing. And brace yourself for this. When we go back to meeting in person, you're going to have to get dressed before you come to church every week. So we got to ask ourselves, is that really better than what we're doing right now? Our online church services are going great. And by the way, I want to answer a question right now. A lot of people are asking me if we're going to continue the online services once we're also meeting in person. And I want to promise you, we will never stop our online services. We're reaching more people now than we ever have before. But we are excited to add back in the element of meeting in person. So here's our plan. And again, it's tentative, it's subject to change. But during phase 1, this first 2 weeks in May, Governor Abbott called it an experiment. And so that's going to be kind of what it is for us as well. We're going to watch and see what happens all around us with these lessened restrictions. And then in mid-May, if the state does what I think they're going to do and goes to phase 2, then we're going to start immediately preparing for our first in-person service, which will happen on May 31st. It's the day of Pentecost, so that's pretty cool. A lot of the local churches have kind of agreed we're all going to kind of do that. And so I think it's neat that we're going to have this unity even with other churches. So during the month of May, our life groups will continue to meet on Zoom like we are right now. I think we're all getting better and better slowly at meeting on Zoom. And I just want to invite you, if you're not in a life group, we started something this past Monday that I thought was pretty cool. Monday at 7, we had a Zoom meeting and I facilitated a discussion about the day before's sermon. So we preached it on Sunday and we talked about it on Monday night. And it was really cool getting some people together, hearing some different perspectives about how it applied to their life and what they got out of it and sharing those ideas with each other. We would love to have you join us this coming Monday to do the same thing. So if you're interested in joining that, all you really need to do is contact Shane. He's our Life Groups Director, and you can reach him at lifegroups@mycbcb.com. Vacation Bible School is coming up soon. Of course, we're going to have to postpone that. It won't be our original dates, and we'll let you know the dates of that just as soon as we can. For sure, we're going to continue our Wednesday worship on Facebook Live. That happens at 2 o'clock on Wednesdays. And if you're missing out on that, man, you're missing out. It's a cool thing to get together in the middle of the week, Facebook Live, and Joy leads us just in a time of worship for about 15 or 20 minutes. Really cool. And then on Thursdays, we will continue our prayer time. And that's also on Facebook Live. That's at 11 o'clock. And if you have prayer needs, you can let us know in advance what they are. And all of us together pray for you and pray for the needs of our church. So it's pretty exciting that we're able to kind of work around some of these restrictions that we've had and see God doing amazing things. I promise you, these were hard decisions. A lot of prayer went into these. The elders have been talking and praying and meeting just constantly. We've met with government leaders. We've met with literally hundreds of other pastors. We've read everything we can get our hands on. We've talked to other government leaders about best practices and what works and what doesn't. And I really feel like we've come up with a good decision. But I want to just remind you that even if our decision isn't perfect, God can work. God's not limited by our decisions. So what's really more important than us making the perfect decision is that we show the world around us perfect unity and perfect love. It's more important that we're on the same page than it is that we're on the right page. Jesus said that the world around us will see Him in us by the love that we have for one another. So it's really important. I am sure there are some people that think we're moving too fast. And I'm positive that there are some people that think we're moving too slow. The world can deal with that, but what the world really needs to see in the church is that we love each other anyway, that we support each other, and that we stick together no matter what. So I just ask you to really pray for unity in the church, not just in this church, but in the worldwide church. And also just remember, however long this thing takes, everybody's talking about reopening, right? When are we going to reopen the church? And you know what? We don't need to reopen the church because the church never closed down. The church is doing great. We're going strong, man. We're reaching more people now than we've ever reached before. So we'll continue to meet in person. We'll meet online. We'll meet on the moon. We will not be shaken. We will not be stopped. We will not be silenced, and we will not be separated, because whatever church services look like, we are the church, and Jesus promised us that the gates of hell will not prevail against us.